is enough. Enough of the same game already. It's time to get some new ideas into this genre. And if somebody was going to do it, it should be EverQuest. We're at the point right now where we're building something that's both heroic and social. We've taken everything we know about games and MMOs in general, and we're fusing the best parts into an original shape, well, that we hope will create triumph and passion in the gamers that play it. See, we were serious about it being a sandbox game.
Gather around and drink some ale and listen to this wondrous tale. A story of ogres, goblins, and trolls, and drink your mead, me bros. So tip this bard for the story he knows, for this is the EverCast show.
Well, how about I tip my coffee to you instead of my ale or my mead? Because
Flattus, wow, you have a crazy singing voice. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EverCast show.
It is so hard to stay to keep from laughing while you're doing those songs.
So Tannlin added the bros. It was all Tannlin.
Yes, the bros were definitely me.
All right, guys. Hello, I'm Chuina. As always, we're joined by Tannlin, Flattus, and we have Caeleste tonight. Call is sleeping, I suppose. He was going to take a little nap. He should be with us, hopefully, later tonight. We're not sure. But as you all may or may not know, a little info, we are a bi-weekly EverQuest Next related show with a focus on community interactions. We're all about connecting players to the game they play and about bringing all the communities together into one. You have all these different news sources. You have all these different fan sites. We want to kind of be the link between it all. So we're always looking for new hosts, stuff like that. But with that, we're going to go into our first section real quick called the EverCast News. Hello, tonight. Welcome to the EverCast News. My name is Chuina. We have some great topics for you all tonight. We'll be starting with EQN storytelling techniques, as well as a few other things like artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about EverQuest Next landmark and non-combat roles possible, player-driven economies, and tons more. So thank you all for joining us, and we're going to have a great show. First up, I would like to notice, or let you guys know, rather, I've already noticed, Caeleste is going to be joining us as a permanent member. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi.
Caeleste is going to be on every single episode going here on out, if everything goes according to plan. So welcome her out, everybody. Also, we're working on a wonderful new website. We're going to be moving away from ogrshows.com. They've been wonderful in hosting our shows, but we want to be sort of more of a social hub. So we're going to be implementing forums, we're going to be implementing polls, trying to get better with the topics that you all want to hear, and letting you guys have a bigger voice in what is the EverCast show. So look forward to that. We don't have any pictures to show you quite yet, but we might have something for you by next show.
Sure.
And one last thing, we're always looking for hosts. Be sure to hit us up at evercast.show@gmail.com. Go ahead and send us your information. We will go ahead and add you on Skype, and we'll talk to you. And if you want to join us, you're all free. But that's it for the EverCast News. I'm going to turn it over to Tannlin, and we're going to dive right into the main content tonight.
Hey, so I was reading a article on EQ Hammer I'm gonna pull it up right here. It was about non-combat gameplay, more than just a toolbox was the name of the article, and it was basically, and I want to highlight exactly what they said. Perhaps one of the biggest things that EverQuest Next Landmark will add to the list is that creation can be equally as important to the growth of the industry as a force of destruction. And basically, what I'm reading out of this is that Landmark is going to be known as the MMO, where you are not known for being the first person to down this raid boss or that raid boss, or the first person to get this item, or the first person to reach level cap. It's going to be the game about what you built. And how you built it, where you built it, what it looked like, what tools you used to build it, what inspired you to build it. And that kind of became important to me as I was talking with a friend, and this was years and years ago when, and I hate to bring up the name, but Ben Affleck played in Daredevil, in the Daredevil movie. And Daredevil is kind of a special superhero because he's the one superhero where you don't know what he can do. He's the superhero who you recognize by what he can't do. And if you're not a comic book fan, Daredevil can't see. He's blind. He is known as the blind superhero. And so I think that when we're talking about like the next evolution of MMOs, it's important to consider Landmark in that, and EverQuest Next to an extent, because hey, this is going to be the game where you're not known for destruction and destroying, but also, and maybe to a greater extent, what you're creating. And so yeah, I just thought I would start off the conversation with that. What's the coolest thing you guys have ever built?
In a game, ever?
Yeah.
Gosh, I made fireworks shows in Second Life. That was pretty rad. It was a lot of fun. Made tons of money doing it, but fireworks shows, yeah. But that's scripting. Like, is EverQuest Next Landmark going to have scripting? Minecraft has like basic scripting. Can they? They say EverQuest Next is an MMO in a way. Well, EverQuest Next Landmark is an MMO, but we haven't seen anything that really makes it an MMO other than like social features. As I can teleport to your build and look at it. Are they going to add things like doors, like where I can script rockets to fly in the air or something? Should we expect that? Should we not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to consider because you asked that next important question. Like, well, if it is an MMO, what makes an MMO? What are the defining characteristics of an MMO? And especially going into our next topic, where we're talking about telling a story, is like if Landmark doesn't have a story in it, where it's basically just here are the rules, create whatever you want. Is it an MMO? I don't have any answer. It's just worth one of those things to talk about.
I
Well,
guess go. I was gonna say real quick. I guess it just depends. Like we say MMO, and it just depends what the following three letters are. MMO RPG is role playing game, which we would think a fantasy role playing game. MMO is massively multiplayer online, and what comes after that
Yeah, that's
could be
exactly what I was
anything.
gonna say. Yep.
It could be anything.
Mhm.
MMO sandbox, MMO Minecraft, MMO
Yeah.
Grand
Right.
Theft Auto Online is going to be an MMO. It's going to be a form of MMO. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, do you think there are people that can find ways to role play in the Landmark setting just with that rule set? Like,
oh yeah,
here, you think so? Because I
I
have
don't
my
see why
doubts.
not.
All right, call me the doubter. I just made the grumpy cat
Oh.
face. I don't know.
No, I'm with Angie.
So the reason that I say I don't see why not is, and I hate to draw comparisons to World of Warcraft, but if you take everything away from World of Warcraft and allow them just to walk around cities, you're going to get people that stop and talk to each other. And that group of people are going to draw more people, and that group of people is going to draw more people, and that group of people is going to draw more people. It doesn't matter what you can do in the world. It takes just one person to talk to another person,
Yeah,
and those
critical
two to
mass.
have like minds to bring another person in, to bring another person in. It doesn't matter what the game was built
Oh,
for. If people want to role play, they're going to find a way in the
Yeah.
rule set, unless it stops them somehow from talking to somebody else. They're going to role play.
no, yeah, I mean, to role play, all you really need is the ability to slash say or slash speak and talk, and maybe emote, like, you know, Tannlin does a funny little dance or something like that. As long as you can do those
From
sort of things, people will find a way to role play. It just, I wonder if there's going to be an incentive to do it, and if that is an incentive enough to create something out of it.
Well, from the sounds of it, we're going to be, like, to a degree, even role playing with the NPCs in the game, because we have to learn how to read them.
True, but
to
our NPCs
understand-
in EverQuest Next Landmark, they haven't announced it.
Oh, that's right. That's
But
right.
to
See, I
stick on to, I know.
can't put those two together.
There's a couple things I really
What?
hate. I was
No.
talking to a friend and I was like, "Hey, look at all these cool things EverQuest Next." He's like, "Yeah, I know about EverQuest Next." I'm like, "You know, Landmark comes out this year." He's like, "What the hell's Landmark?" I'm like, "Okay, here we go. Let me type my paragraph to explain it to you." I don't know if they've done the best job at selling it as two different games yet. A lot of the presentations and stuff at Gamescom and stuff, people were confused. Is that on EverQuest Next? Is that on EverQuest Next Landmark? They weren't very
Right.
specific. But to stick on the topic of role playing, I'm with Angie. I think that not only will people role play if they want to role play, but Tannlin, think of this. You can have multiple different worlds in EverQuest Next Landmark. You can have a sci-fi world. I could build Harry Potter if I wanted to, and I could role play Harry Potter. So
see-
technically, I'd say that it has more role play ability than EverQuest Next because you have to be in the world of Norrath and EverQuest Next. In EverQuest Next Landmark, you're in your own imagination.
So somebody is going to go out there, and I'm saying this is entirely plausible, but create Hogwarts in EverQuest Landmark and then invite everybody over to be like, hey, I created Hogwarts, let's play Harry Potter. We lost Chuina. Uh-oh. Do we lose anybody else? Oh, great. We lost everybody. Hey, I'm looking, and I have no dropped frames, so I have no idea. I don't know what caused this to happen.
Hey guys, I'm sorry about that. My computer froze. I'm actually on the phone right now, so I can hear you and talk, but the video will be a second.
Well, it wasn't just you; it was everybody but me, because I'm running the stream. But it looks like everybody else got dropped out of the call either. All right, so we're gonna go to the loading screen and give it like a minute or two, and then come back. So stay tuned as we resolve the technical difficulties. I have no drop. And we're back. And I'm going to let Trina explain because this time it was not my
guys,
fault.
I'm sorry. My computer crashed and I was hosting the call. So when my computer went down, everyone died. My apologies. I think someone out there might be hacking my computer to bring our show down or something, right? But anyways, going back to the topic. So the role you were talking, Tannlin, about the role playing in EverQuest Next Landmark, and I kind of brought up this idea of Hogwarts.
And that goes back to my idea of that Landmark is going to be important and it's going to be evolutionary because it's going to be the game where you're not known for what you're destroying and what you're killing and what you're stealing, but it's going to be known for as the game that you become, you get your ego boost by what you create. And Hogwarts is a huge and incredible idea of one of the things that you can create in Landmark. And just you mentioning that is just like huge inspiration, like because now that I'm
mind blown.
Right, exactly. Like what other fantasy type places have we read about but not actually seen that could be built?
Tons of things when you think about it. I mean,
I want to build Faldor's Farm.
Oh, from David Eddings, Faldor's Farm?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking even from Game of Thrones, like someone's out there is going to try and build
oh my god. That's going to be amazing.
The throne.
No, see, I'm actually doing my senior research on this right now. I'm not going to talk about all that stuff. But one of the things I'm looking at is what kind of community and what kind of experience do players have in a game that focuses on creation versus destruction. That's one of kind of my analysis points that I'm going to be studying. And I think it's a great point. I think that you're going to have less of a toxic community if it's not built on
Yep.
competition and stuff like that. You're going to have more of a creative output. It's going to be more of a virtual world. You're going to recognize people by the stuff they create. You're going to remember those things. You're going to want to travel there. I can't wait.
You're gonna have better group interaction. You're gonna want people to say like, "I want to build with that guy. That guy built amazing things." They're gonna have people asking like, "Hey, how do you do that? Like, what's that little trick you did to make that happen?"
Yeah,
Like,
There's going to be a whole series of YouTube tutorials. Didn't they say that they were going to integrate Twitch into
Yes.
Landmark or YouTube so that you could do the recording? And
they have the
people are-
time-lapse videos too. So I'm
Right,
sure they'll
and-
be live streaming and time-lapse. Mhm.
Right, so people will be building tutorials on how this is how I built this thing, because I already know they're doing it for Minecraft, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tons.
See,
Well, no, and I think that you're absolutely right about the community aspect of it, because I'm looking back to Vanguard, and like one of the reasons I stayed around in Vanguard so long was because of the crafting community. It was absolutely the best game community that I've run across, where it's, you know, people telling, you know, sharing that, oh, this is how you can do this, or this is where you find that, because there was no other place to really find it.
Mm-hmm.
in regards to community, I agree. Vanguard and EverQuest 2 have been the two communities that have been the least toxic, and by the least toxic, I mean non-toxic. And
EverQuest 2 has its
they've been.
moments.
You know what? The thing
Once
is,
you get in the high level
every
chat.
single game is going to have some toxicity. It's not going to be avoidable because it's the nature of humans. Period. There's that one in every.
We're all evil.
Right. Well, no, and I think like your thesis question was a statement. Maybe we can talk about later. Is does competition bring out the worst? You know.
Yeah, we should definitely have a show on communities. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just do game developers, should they keep that in mind? Like, hey, if we put in this PvP competition or just this other type of competition, do we have to be aware of what that does to our community?
You gotta when you have something like competition, you gotta keep in mind like when you're playing like a first-person shooter and you're in a competition, your adrenaline starts pumping, your aggression starts to raise. It's like an athlete's high when like we were playing let's talk about football for a second.
No, you're absolutely
no.
No, I think it's a good point though, because we you know, when you see fights break out in like football games, and you're like, dude, you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a basically what amounts to a children's game. Can't you keep your composure? I think it's a valid question to ask. Like, does the adrenaline
Yeah,
allow?
it happens in hockey constantly, and
Hockey's
No.
Soccer.
Hockey's not about hockey. Hockey's about bare-knuckle boxing on ice.
Domino brings up a good point. It's also not about the game itself and the way the game's created, but Domino gives a shout out to the community team. It's also how the devs interact with the game and how the community team manages sort of the community at large. Like, what kind of image are they putting forth? It has a lot to do with image creation and moderation. Moderation's important in these subjects. But going back to EverQuest Next Landmark as an MMO, recently, I don't remember where it was somewhere, Georgeson said it is going to be an MMO. There will be kind of levels, and during the latest RoundTable video where they had Jake, I believe his name's Jake. Okay, no one's correcting me. I'm going to say it's Jake. He's talking about all the different kind of tools in EverQuest Next Landmark and how they're creating things that have sort of a high skill ceiling but low skill floor. And he says that they're going to actually unlock new tools as you sort of level up in the game.
Right,
so you'll start building off with certain tools, and then you'll unlock new things, sort of like new abilities, new levels. And I mean, that's an MMO thing right there, progression.
Yeah, and that's how that works in Minecraft. In order to even start wanting to start digging underground, you need to punch a tree. That's honestly how it works. Because you have no tools, you start no tools in Minecraft, and the first thing you do is go punch a tree. You punch the tree, you get wood, you make an axe, you chop down more tree, then you make a pick, then you get stone, you make a stone pick, you go deeper, you get iron, and so on and so forth.
I think that it could be a pretty interesting take on an MMO, but it would certainly not be, you know, like a story driven type MMO that we're now used to, where there's, you know, a cast of characters in the world, and we go along with this cast of characters through this grand story. Like, Landmark's not going to be like that.
I think it will. No. I'm going to say it is, because I remember, now that I'm remembering what Georgeson said. He said something about it slipped out in an interview, and I guess he tried to catch himself, and he's in chat. He said that players would be able to sort of create NPCs or some sort of like storyline. I don't know exactly what he meant by it, but it goes back to what Storybricks is essentially, where you saw the tech demo before EverQuest Next kind of started coming into being, and that is players sort of create the NPCs, pop them in the world, and they interact and they kind of create quests and stories. We were talking about it on our predictions episode. I think we're going to see that. I don't think we'll see that at launch in EverQuest Next. I think they're going to work towards it. I think they want to. I think they have a grand vision of us being able to create games like Little Big Planet and stuff like that, and being able to create dungeons and stories in EverQuest Next Landmark. And I'm going to throw out my dice, and I'm going to say that we can expect to see some kind of storytelling possibilities for players, so that when I create Hogwarts, I could create a mini game out of it. I could create a quest line or stories. I can populate the world.
What's the name of the cat? You know, create a Hogwarts maze that you had to get through the Hogwarts without being spotted by the cat. You think you could do something like that?
Oh, Filch's cat?
Yeah,
I don't remember the name of Filch's cat, honestly.
It was Filch's cat.
Yes, okay. But no, I think that I'm sure we'll see it. They're doing an open development kind of thing from what I've heard. I'm sure that we'll see it as later add-ons to EverQuest Next Landmark, where I'm pretty sure that just a world creator or like a building simulator, I don't think that's the top of the mountain. I think they have much bigger goals than that, but that could just be me throwing it out there.
You know what? I don't know. I think that it's going to be a little bit more like Minecraft with some extra tools added to it. But I don't know if it's.
But Minecraft, I can make signs and I can kind of set up a story in very limited ways, but it's possible. And
No.
AI possibilities.
No. In the latest Minecraft update, you can actually record MP3s and put them in game and create story. And how people did it before, they actually created story maps and you had RPGs you can play in game. People created.
I think that I went to Reddit and someone in Minecraft had built a theater, and then they had integrated some sort of plugin so that people could go and log into the Minecraft server and sit down in this theater that they were created and like watch something that they had plugged into their Minecraft server.
Yeah.
My lord.
Yeah.
If Minecraft can do this, EverQuest Next, I mean, okay, think of the team Minecraft relies a lot on mods. I've been playing with some people lately. It's been a lot of fun, and they play on this FTB server, so it's a lot about mods. But EverQuest Next Landmarks is trying to do that. It's trying to do the critical mass thing where we all sort of build it together. So add a scripting. If they can add a scripting language like Second Life, I know you guys haven't played it, but it was a basic, almost visual basic language that was very easy to use. And I could create moving objects, and I could create cars and everything by just linking prems together and adding that script. And I can make everything in the game. If they can do that, which a game like back in 06 or before that, maybe before that did. I mean, why can't they do that? I'm not judging the team. I think they can do it. I think they have plans. They're holding big cards.
I am so expecting this much.
Are you?
No, but that's not saying a bad thing. Is because I think that this much that they've showed us is just absolutely awesome. Like we were just talking about, like someone's going to go out there and build Hogwarts. We just New Schwanstein Castle, like all of these things that we've imagined, and it's like Disneyland.
Yes,
it's like
we're building. Disney World, though. I'm from Florida.
What?
Disney World.
04, by the way, on Second Life. To correct that bar tail, it's 04 Second Life for people listening on the audio or whatever. But that leads us into, can you prop up that video? Flattus, a while back, do you want to kind of go through that scenario, Flattus, with the water real quick while Tannlin gets the video ready?
Yeah.
Has to do with our next topic, storytelling.
Yeah, a while back I was kind of talking about how in the world, at least in EverQuest Next, if we could, seeing how we can destroy destroy the world and stuff, and how they would, theoretically use rallying calls, we could affect the world. And if we could, let's say if there was a lava flow coming down, we could take water and redirect the water to stop the oncoming lava. Or if there was something like a tsunami coming in, how the water would affect and ravage a city or a town or the land itself. And it just depends on how they, the ability for them to use the water.
Totally.
The voxels, the voxels in a water-based system. And what this video shows how this program is using water in a voxel form. the water reacts like real water. It's block-shaped water, but it reacts in the same way. It spreads out and it actually filled that little hole the guy had
It's
there.
physical based, essentially. Like you'll see it flow over. It can actually puddle on flat land, but it'll eventually seep back into the grass. But if you dig down to dirt or something where it's sturdier material, you can build ponds and stuff. This guy builds fountains, and it all reacts real time. So you imagine like the voxel smoothing techniques and all this stuff that's available with the Forge Light version of the voxel engine that they're using Voxel Farm.
Yeah.
We could see some amazing. Like I've never had. Has there ever been world or water in a real game? Real water. It's always been sort of an aesthetic. You could have real water in this game that you could redirect and do all kinds of cool stuff with. A dam breaking and you have to repair that dam. But if like I remember that in Guild Wars, they had that quest. The dam was supposed to break and you were repairing it. But what if that dam actually broke and flooded the village? And then you can put damage, like you can put weight on the water voxel, right? So it can do damage to all the things in front of it. So when that interaction happens, it could be just like you swinging a sword. It can knock down the trees, knock down the buildings that it takes over.
Right. Well, just giving the water a current is like one of those really cool things to have in an MMO, because I remember Vanguard, my first MMO, it had rivers, and it was like, dude, this river, don't try to cross it, it'll just take you downstream. But then there were other rivers that were much more, gentle stream, and so you knew that you could cross them. And then like I go to play Warcraft, and there's no tides, there's no flow to the river, it's just water.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's Play-Doh.
It's static water.
Right.
It sits there.
And in Mists of Pandaria, I came across my first waterfall in Warcraft that actually had moving water, like it was pushing you.
Yep.
And so this is, it's like, that's actually a huge thing, and people will notice it the first time that they run across it. They're like running, and all of a sudden
and they flow down the stream. Yeah.
Right, and that current grabs them and starts taking them. And I think it'll be
doesn't even have that, like.
Yeah. Can we expect to see the 40 days and 40 nights of rain and then do a flood type, world event?
I guess it just depends on what server does what in the rallying call.
Plus, computer specifications and how well they can sort of make the engine to run on everything. But what do you think, Angie? Would you like to be gushed over by a tidal wave in EverQuest Next Landmark or Next?
Wait, repeat that, because you've cut out twice on that question.
I'm sorry.
So I don't know. I'm going to assume that it's my end, but I have had all of that conversation with the water voxels. It's been half in and half out, and I've tried to message, but it's not working.
Oh. All right. Well, we read you loud and clear.
We read you loud and clear. Yeah. But that's all that matters, right?
So I hear that there's water conversation and that there's dams people are building, and if people are going to give dams or take dams.
Well, not exactly. It's more like what could you imagine happening given the ability to create water and floods and streams and currents? Like, where do you think that would go? Where would that take you?
Oh, snap.
Not to put you on the
downstream. That's where it would take me.
Up a river without a paddle.
Yes, that would be the one. Gosh, if they're gonna give that much control over water, the first thing that I think of is I still want a freaking boat. Give me a boat. I want to build a boat.
Totally.
I want a boat.
That's all I can. Real tides and stuff with boats and stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so I don't know.
Maybe that's a little too far.
I don't know if they're actually planning on putting the the sun and the moon in
tides
in Landmark or not. See,
that might be a
here's
little
the thing.
The day-night cycle will be in Landmark.
Okay, so my only frustration is that sometimes, like, I personally get the information from Landmark and EverQuest Next mixed up, so I might say that it's in Landmark and it really isn't. But if the cycles are really there, then what if we have tides? And if we have tides, what if we have tsunamis? And then there's weather. And if we can have water and control over the water, why can't we have control over the weather? Or not control over it.
All right, Dave, Domino, we want a simulation of the world. And if you don't deliver, we'll still love you.
No,
I agree, Angie. I mean, that's how I think too when I think about this. The possibilities are there.
Give me an inch and I'm going to take a mile, frankly,
no,
with my imagination.
Right. Well, so they were talking about like different things that would spark rallying calls, and I'm moving away from EverQuest Landmark to EverQuest Next, the actual MMO now. And they're talking about different things that create rallying calls, and then just my imagination went, okay, so you have an earthquake, right? And what do earthquakes cause? They cause tsunamis. So here you are on one side of the world, and you feel the earthquake. Here you are on the other side of the world, and you don't feel the earthquake because you're, 100 miles away or whatever. But then the tsunami comes and lets you know, hey, there was something going on way over there.
See, that would be crazy, and you'd have to prepare, and and you can, and I don't know. They haven't said how many rallying calls can go on at once. I don't know if there could be multiples going on at the same time. But what's to stop them from saying, earthquake on this side, tsunami on this side, deal with it.
I love that new players are starting in rallying calls too.
Oh yeah,
Do you guys like that? Are you okay with
no
starting cities?
I'm absolutely okay with that because, as we were talking about before, about how like progression games like Guild Wars 2 and especially World of Warcraft, I'm going to go back to it. It's like there's two different games. There's the game at end level, and then there's the game that gets you to end level. And everything that is taking place in the story happens at end level. And if you're not at end level, you don't get to see it. It's off limits. You don't get to see the dungeons that they create to tell that story. You don't get to see the raids. And so this idea that we're going to do a rallying call, and the rallying call is going to be that localized, this is where the story is at this very moment on this server, and you put new players there, they're instantly connected with where that story is, and they don't have to, there is no longer the two separate games. It is all one game. You're playing EverQuest Next, and you're seeing what's happening in the world. And I am 100% in favor of it unequivocally.
Unequivocally?
Yeah, that word.
I'm in for it too, because especially, let's say if I have a friend who's wants to come join me and play EverQuest Next for the first time, I don't have to sit there and say, all right, like, oh, I want to do that cool content you were talking about in that new expansion. I spent all this money buying the game and all these expansions. I want to be the high-end level and do the cool stuff you're talking about. Oh, we got a level first. So you sit there and you slam through all those levels to get up to that. And now it's just, you jump right in and you could do the same thing I was doing 2 days ago. And we're going in and we're doing it together and we're experiencing the same thing. It cuts out that so much time of having to go through all that. I'm not saying that the story is going to be boring. It's going to be, hey, listen, and it's what they've told us so far. Hey, I was here. We built this city. Come look at the city I built, a couple months back.
City. We built this city on boxes and stone.
Oh, you had to.
I'm sorry.
So it looks like Dave might be making a joke about blizzards aren't going to be allowed in EverQuest Next.
Oh,
but heavy snowstorms are okay, but blizzards aren't.
Okay.
No one wants to travel.
No blizzard in EverQuest Next.
Like, they need to limit the amount of damage.
Listen to him, little me. No.
You can't craft stars either, so don't worry about it.
No NPCs will ever say wow either. Oh my god.
Well, what were we talking about? Were we talking about the story, telling a story with MMOs?
Yeah, storytelling, yeah.
Right, and that huge, like, putting people where the story is occurring, I think is absolutely important to the game. It's just so key because you don't have to like bring someone up to level, you don't have to do the level grind or the power level. And what it also really cuts down on people getting their accounts hacked because they're buying characters because they don't, hey, I don't want to spend
Cuts down a lot.
Right, and so that they can just jump in and play the game. And like I said, that's hugely important. But when we're talking about other ways of telling a story through gameplay, like I didn't think that I was going to be the type of person that liked those type of games where you're playing and you're seeing like you're playing your role-playing game and there's cutscenes and you're going on and you're doing your own thing. And that's one of the other differences that I see between EverQuest Next and other games is that where you have where you do your quest. I'm going to use another WoW example. You get the quest to find Mancrick's wife, okay? If this is a Baron's quest that you get like really early in the game, and you go and you help this guy find his wife, right? And All right, the guy has not found his wife for 5 years, even though it is a quest that almost every single Horde character does. And it kind of like, it breaks that, like, dude, Mancrick's wife, haven't you done the quest? Because if we're out there and we're helping this guy, how many people does it take to help him out? And does it kind of break the story when that quest is inconsequential? It doesn't matter if he finds his wife or not because it doesn't change the world. If you help him find his wife, 2 weeks later you're leveling another character and you go through that zone, he's still missing his wife. And it's just, I want to get away from that type of storytelling in games. When I do the quest, I want it to matter. And when someone else comes through, that they're not just doing the same things over and
Yeah.
over.
It's like,
Yeah,
bye.
Storybricks
Have you
has
seen my wife?
This all goes down to the AI though. Like with the AI that they're working on, there's a possibility for the story to always be changing. The problem with MMOs is the authored content. You create a script, you create a narrative, and the players have to all enjoy that narrative. You don't have, like, if you're you guys love talking WoW for some reason, not EverQuest too, but whatever. We'll put that aside. But like, you can't have a billion or I don't know. There's 10 million players. You can't have 10 million developers to create a personal story for everything. So the way they're setting up this sort of if-then situation with the AI, like, it is possible for us to all have a very unique story, but think of it this way. We all played PlanSide 2 Monday. We're doing like sort of every Monday we're going to play a game together and you guys can join us. But we played PlanSide 2. What was the one thing you noticed most about PlanSide 2? Just go ahead and spurt it out.
It was so unpredictable.
What about you, Flattus?
It's strategic and it's super team based. You have to work together. If you
Think
go
of
and
the
run off,
storytelling.
Well, see, was there really a story? We didn't see it at all.
Were you immersed?
No.
You weren't? Oh wow.
it depends. It depends on your version of your. I don't want to say version of immersion because that's what I'm.
Did you feel like you were in a world? Let me put it that way. Did you feel like you were in a world, an online world?
Yes, and I'll tell you this. I'll say yes because there is a struggle. There is a struggle there because there's 3 different factions, and we had to worry about not one group of people, but we had to worry about 2 different groups of people. So it didn't matter if it was the Vanu or the I always forget the other guys.
New conglomerate.
The new conglomerate.
It doesn't matter what they are.
It doesn't matter what they are. The other guys.
The lessers.
That Higby faction, whatever his name is.
Right.
Freedom fighters.
No,
they've all played Terran.
I think that it's
dirty
that Flattus did point out something that I did notice while I was playing the game, and that was that when I was looking across the horizon and I could see stuff that's going on way on in the horizon that isn't affecting exactly what I'm doing at that moment. Like here,
the world.
But I knew that what they were doing over there mattered, and it was not.
That's the point I was going at. Okay, EverQuest Next can do the same thing. It's a totally new type of storytelling. In cinematics, when you're in that big army, that big war, and you see everything going around you, those are storytelling techniques. When you see that mass around you and you see everything going on, it's telling you a narrative without you even knowing it. It's putting you into the condition, into the setting. PlanetSide 2 does that. You see the galaxies dropping, and you see the airdrops coming in, you see the tanks rolling over the hill, and it instantly is, you're able to kind of, it's a very basic story, but it's still a story, and you're able to be immersed, and you're always taken back by it. EverQuest Next can do that too. You can see that giant army of thousands of orcs running over the hill and coming at you.
Right. And then you're going to be like, I'm running this way.
Itself. Without a single quest, you have a unique story that's something that you're going to remember more than if you had a good written quest.
It could be. Like, hey, I need to get from point A to point B, and as I'm moving across the world, all of a sudden I notice this goblin army going across my path, and all of a sudden the next 20 minutes is me dodging the goblin army because they keep coming, right? And then
see when that happens, that's when Flattus is like, you know what, guys, I'm going back to the tavern. I'm just gonna let everybody else know back home that, hey, listen, this goblin army, everybody else is dead. I'm gonna free beer. I just need a beer. You calm down a little bit.
You know,
I need lots of ale.
And not to pick on Warcraft, I just had an imagination, a spark. That the Old Republic, Star Wars: The Old Republic, did the same thing. Where if you're playing a Sith warrior or a Sith Inquisitor, you would get a quest to find some guy's son in a cavern, and he's always there, and he's always dead, and you always go tell his dad. And then no matter what you tell his dad about his son, the outcome doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. So it's not just Warcraft that's guilty of it. It's
Every MMO.
Are you talking about the quest where you, like in the temple, you have to go find the kid's body, and you go back to the dad that's in all red?
Yeah.
You can actually tell him two different things, and you can choose not to pick up the quest. You can tell him that he was dead and that he died an honorable death that was worthy of a Sith, and then you can tell him that he was dead and that he failed miserably and that he died at the very, very entrance. And if you tell his dad that, his dad is really disappointed and bitches about how bad his own kid was.
But does
it has absolutely no impact on the
He's
game.
not my son. He didn't get A+.
Right. But
wow.
Again,
that's cool. That is cool. That's dynamic.
But again, it's dynamic, but it doesn't.
But it doesn't change the game at all.
True.
It doesn't.
It might be different, but it's not. There's no consequence. It's inconsequential. There's no. It matters not at all.
Honestly, I think when they sat around the table and said, "Guys, questing storylines," we've seen what's out there. We've seen what Warcraft did, and that was cool. We've seen what Star Wars: The Old Republic did. That's cool. They did some cool storytelling. But what was if we said we made the story on a global scale? It's not about it should matter to me, but myself as the player, but it should matter to everyone as the player, both people that are going to be good and both people that are going to be bad, because they're going to influence how this game turns out and it could be server based.
Totally, yeah.
So do you think could we have it? Could we want it like different servers have different stories, like they go different ways?
Sure, yeah. Why not?
I mean, I would love to see that. I would love to see how, because the communities will help things evolve in different ways. And like you get one person who's charismatic who can get the ball rolling and say, hey, let's get things going this way. And then on another server, someone else gets it going the other way. And, as the stories progress, those will be noticeably different as they keep going. And I think that's incredible. I just don't know if that's possible.
I think it's possible. Look, think of it as not building a game based on structure so much as building a simulation. I mean, if I'm on one server versus another server, an orc camp might be in a different space just because players don't travel that way. I mean, using the basic thing from the reveal, Georgeson said that orcs will go where people tread lightly, don't tread a lot, but places where they could rob. If people are traveling different on a different server, it's a totally different story.
Low guards.
For real. Yeah, low guards, but population with rich people, maybe, they'll go. But also, it goes back to that meta-narrative. It's about creating a larger story. I don't think we need so much as a tailored experience, because everyone sort of has their own views of reality. We all view the game we're playing differently. And because of that, we can all view a very generic large war, and if there's enough dynamics in it, we can all take away a very personal story from that, but it has to be done right. I asked a question at SOE Live to the developers, and it had to do with, I don't remember what it had to do with, honestly, but one of the developers said that I was thinking about questing in a different way than they were approaching it, or something basically I was wrong when it came to questing. I don't know if there's going to be straight up personal quests as there are in normal games. I think it might be more very public, very open event. It's not going to be very scripted. It's not going to be very permanent. I could be wrong. I think there will be stuff that's permanent for a while, rallying calls and things like that, but I think more of it is based on the exploration and social exploration than anything else. Is that even possible? Can you have like public quests for everything in the game? Is that how it's going to work? Or this is storytelling.
I think that they said that there's going to be some that are, there are some that it's going to be authored, what they call the authored content, or isn't that what they used? And and there's going to be some that's going to be authored, and I think that that's a good thing, that's a necessary thing, because we're all pretty experienced MMO players, so when we can come in and we'll be like, no rules, woo, let's go, and do our own thing, and there's some people that are going to come in to play the game, and they're going to be like, well, what do I do, where do I go? And to have that NPC there, that quest giver, to be like, hey, go kill 10 rats and come back to me and I'll give you some money. At least that gets them started on the path. And I think that that's not, it doesn't make a bad MMO when you do that. When you rely
Yeah.
on it, and when you rely on it heavily, it doesn't make it a bad MMO, because I still think there are plenty of good MMOs that do it. But I want to see something just a little bit different.
True. I do
I mean,
too.
like I said, I would like to see the ability as when I'm going to collect ore or something like that, or I'm in the woods. I find something. I find like a note that leads me on a trail to something, and I go on this epic quest just because of this little. I found a map. Let's just say I was out in the woods cutting down trees for lumber for my crafting profession, and
Conserve the
I
trees, man. Limited
and,
resources.
and then let's say I found a map. Let's say if it was just like on a skeleton's body, and I was like, oh, cool, I know where that. I kind of know that area, and then I go spelunking over that way, and I'm like, all right, well, let me start digging into the ground. I start digging in the ground. I fall into a cave, and then it leads into a story. Then I end up finding a chest that has gold and riches and stuff like that. Like that to me is cool. That's cool quest, and it gives me, you know, whatever maybe it leads to a new class that I find. Maybe I find a different class that way, and that's like, hey, you're found a, you know,
Spelunking
pirate.
class.
Yeah, spelunking class, or
That actually sounds
That would be
really
cool.
cool.
you know,
It's
or
just a good word to say, spelunking.
or even map maker. Like you discovered that, and that
No.
you become the
For real though, no.
cartographer.
Have you guys noticed the advertisement about Elder Scrolls Online? One of the biggest things. Now I have no like personal knowledge, but one of the biggest things about the things they're saying is that the way they guide you through the world is based on like events that you encounter. Like, hey, I'm in this new area. Here's all the cool things around me, sort of like Guild Wars 2 did.
Right.
Thing is, that's still that's a linear MMO still. So talking about the things that Flattus was talking about, you're talking about more of an organic experience. There's authored content, there's non-authored content, but the way it interacts is almost random. It's not random because it's set in certain areas, but the way you interact with it could be random. I could not go there. I could go here instead. I could have a totally different experience, and then I can tell my friends about it and try and take them back there before the earthquake happens underground or something. Like, there's so many possibilities based on what we've heard so far for an MMO that you could spend days and days in and still be exploring new things. I just need more information.
Right, more information. I think the greatest thing about what you just said is that if you spend days and days in it just exploring and messing around, like in other games, that's time that you're not progressing. You're not climbing that vertical.
But vertical
but it
progression
doesn't
versus
matter.
horizontal progression.
Right.
It doesn't matter in EverQuest Next.
Right, you don't have to invest the time doing climbing the ladder in a vertical progression type system. You can just go out and explore, and it's not like it's detracting from you being able to play the game in other areas. It is playing the game.
Yeah, everything matters. From what it sounds like so far, everything I do will have an impact, at least in my gameplay. No matter what it is, if it's out there chopping down trees, it'll impact the game. It'll impact my gameplay for that period. It could be that natural, like I find the map because I'm out there, or I see a wisp and it leads me out into an area, and some of the things they describe, like a druid would need to go in the woods and pray to their god. Let's say that wisp leads me to an area, and I learn a new ability or something crazy like that. Those are the little things that could be cool.
It could happen in Landmark too. Like Georgeson just said in chat, Landmark will grow. I mean, they're definitely taking an open development approach. I mean, I'm pretty sure if they were going to launch a finalized game and come December, we would all be in beta already. I mean, if they haven't even started the opener beta yet, we can definitely expect a sort of project in development. There's my phone. A project in development come December. We did. Who's not okay with that? Like,
absolutely.
It allows us to create the game as we go.
Right, bare bones, EverQuest Next Landmark, and then patch in some more stuff and build it up over time.
Updates, constant game updates.
That's what Minecraft did. It was in beta.
Absolutely.
Planet 2 does as well.
Yeah, so I mean, they could give us that game right now. I'm not saying that it would be.
Give it to us.
Listen. Dave Jordan, if you're listening.
Oh, he is.
Give
we know
it
he
to
is.
us.
I'm just saying, like, if you gotta give us the game, we can.
Producer. She probably has closer access to those ratings.
Hey.
Listen.
Oh my god.
Who likes muffins? Because Kai could probably bake some because she's closer to you guys and get them to you fresh, because if I sent them, they probably wouldn't show up that way.
We just make them in San Diego.
I love how he tries to bribe people with my baking skills.
I do the same thing.
Not that I'm married to you.
He says we don't want this version, so it's probably a buggy mess.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
we'll let them
that's
work
fun.
out all the kinks first, and we'll play
No,
the
no,
fun
no. I
version.
want this version. I don't really
Can you
care.
imagine?
See,
Can you
I
imagine?
know I hate crash to desktops.
Can you imagine? I'm like, I fell into the world. How far? I saw it. I saw my feet.
Right. We're almost to that hour mark, guys. Do we
I
want to
know.
jump?
What the hell?
Oh my gosh. Let's
Do-
do roundtable real quick. We have 7
Yeah.
minutes to do roundtable, and then we can come back with the rest of our topics.
Sure.
Is that cool? All
Yeah.
right, let's pop the roundtable.
All right. First round table question for this episode is contested content. Yay or nay? Anybody?
And do they contest it in which way? Because that's such a vague question, not understanding context.
Well, see, Terry, I think his name is Terry, tweeted in
Terry
his
Michaels?
yeah, Terry Michaels tweeted as his answer to that question something about like instanced or non-instanced, and that's how I took it. Do you want it open world or do you want to have instant? Because if it's instance, then you are protected in that environment. And hey, this is your boss, and you get this boss until you down it. And if you don't down it, then nothing happens. But in an open world, if someone gets to that boss before you do, they can tag it and kill it and loot it before you do.
I don't want instances in EverQuest Next unless
Yeah.
it has to do with like housing creation or something. I don't want raids like that. I'll play other games for that. There's thousands. There's still games coming out like that. I want that big open world sandbox experience where I'm part of a bigger picture. I'm not the picture, but I'm part of it.
One thing in Rift, when I was playing Rift, one thing when they added the raid rifts, if you were on a PvP server, what happened was
It was fun.
Yeah, see what happened since the rifts were out, the raid rifts were out in the open, and if you were in a PvP server, you could go in as the other faction during their raid and start doing PvP things. Yeah, and then then it became a battle between you, the raid boss, and the other faction.
No, Guild Wars 2 wasn't really built around that sort of thing, but in the Eternal Battlegrounds, they had raid level mobs, which would take a huge team of like 40 or more players to try and take it down. But the thing is that it took so long to get into that engagement. By the time you started getting that engagement and really working on that raid encounter, as soon as one of the other factions or one of the other servers noticed that that's what you were doing, they had plenty of time to sit around and wait until they had enough forces, and then they just come through and streamroll you because you couldn't take on all the things at once. But even with that said, the instanced content just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, why do we need it in this day of age of sandboxes? If they're making a sandbox game, why do you need an instance? Like, maybe we can talk about this again later during after hours, but I don't see the need for an instance. I don't see a need.
That goes back, and not to bash on WoW, but I had the video all queued up like last episode to show where Arthas is dying and his ghost of his father comes and talks to him and is like, "Father, is it over?" And the first time I saw that video, someone else in my raid group was like, "No, son, they're here to kill you again next week." You know, because right?
Yeah, it's true.
And so it's like those sort of raid encounters. I don't know. I can do without them.
Yeah, well, true. Go ahead, Flattus.
I was gonna say real quick before we move to the next roundtable. I don't think anyone here is thinking about the AI as well. You go in and you say, "Ha ha ha!" Mess with you guys. You can't kill the dragon. Dragon's like, "Ha ha ha!" You're my next target. It's now gonna go down. It's not like it's gonna reset and just be like, "Okay, well, who's gonna kill me next?" He's gonna see well, there's still people down there.
Right. Well, and then, the orcs don't like being where guards are at. You think that they would also not like to be where they're getting attacked constantly.
I know, right?
So sooner or later, this raid orc leader encounter is like, peace, I'm out. You guys.
Dave Mark tweeted about that. He said, "What if mobs are more focused on defending themselves than attacking your ass?" Like,
right.
And why wouldn't they be if whatever? Next roundtable topic. We got 3 minutes left for that.
Okay.
I vote no to instancing since nobody asked. I was
Thank you,
waiting for
Angie.
to like tangent on.
Hold on, I'm this way. Angie. Thank you. Tannlin.
The next Yeah, I'm right up above. The next roundtable question is another simple question. What's your, and this one doesn't even have a yes or no or right or wrong. It's what's your favorite small race?
Don't spit on me, please.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
God, that's hard. We have to pick one. Everyone pick one. Angie, you first.
No.
Oh, mine is
Okay.
simple. Mine is
Tannlin,
simple.
you first.
I'm straight up rolling with my nomies.
Rolling with my nomies.
Rolling with my nomies. And but I don't like the I don't know how to describe this the round rotund big nose type brownie.
Like lawn gnomes.
The
like
lawn gnomes, right? And I'm
versus-
gonna one of my close friends who's also an artist, Raven Mimura. He has his own concept of what a gnome looks like, and I'm gonna link to it really quick and be like, "This is what I
Oh,
imagine."
yeah, link it in chat. That's cool.
When
Have you
I
seen the
hear
gnomes in
gnomes.
EverQuest 2? They're cool. Gnomes in
And-
EverQuest 2 are bomb.
And there is a picture of what I think a gnome should look like.
Wow, that's interesting. It's almost like a wood elf. A wood
It's
elf on
well,
demon.
right. It's a non-flying brownie, but it is a fey creature, and even like if you're reading back into the legends and stuff, that's
I
what.
hate Fae.
Best description ever. Non-flying brownie.
I just have to say one thing about this whole like pick your favorite non-tall race is that Sony, if you're listening, and we know that you are, two of you, and one of you I know for sure plays Rotanga because I've seen pictures. Please do not force us to choose only one. It's not fair.
Yeah, I mean,
There
every
are
single race that's in
two-
EverQuest 2 or EverQuest
Dave,
1
he's
should be in
saying not
EverQuest.
listening. Dave is over here going not listening. Please
All right,
listen.
so top.
I
Can
don't
you
know.
can you narrow
Anyways.
it down to two? Can you narrow it down to two?
Yeah, pick two favorites.
He says there can be only one. This is not
Wow.
All right. Well, hey.
way.
Wow.
Of the
Dave
shortest.
Jortson just made this Highlander.
Here we go. I was thinking it in chat earlier.
Give me my Fae.
All right.
Want
Okay,
my
Fae.
Fae.
All right.
All right.
Flattus.
All right, I'm gonna go with the frog locks. I'm sorry, guys. I was fighting for frog locks the other day. I tweeted it out.
No.
I really want some frog lock love.
I want to
There's-
see the first video of the frog lock heroic movement because that is going to be some epic heroic movement.
It's gonna be awesome.
ribbit.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, and if you guys know about brownies in EverQuest 2, I want that as a playable race in EverQuest Next. Basically, they were tiny people, like straight out of God, I should know the name of this book. The Island where the guy gets tied up. Jack.
Gulliver's Travels.
Yes, I want those
Lilliputians.
people. I want tiny people. I want to be
Well,
able to
the
have a perspective that I've
Lilliputians.
never had in a video game before.
Lilliputians.
You can
Or
do
in
that.
real life, you're so tall.
Whatever. I want to be a tiny person.
Tiny.
I really don't like Fae. In Second Life, I roleplayed as an orc, and we'd go around smashing Fae and turning their wings into pixie dust for our meat pies. Loktar Ogar. But anyways, total nerding out. We should go to the conclusion. It's 11 o'clock. We'll have to
Dude,
come
why
back.
is he quoting World of Warcraft? I didn't think he played that game.
Whatever. Okay, orc language is orc language. It's kind of whatever. Flattus to the conclusion. Flattus is right there.
Hey guys, and this is the end of our show. This is our first episode. Sorry Cal couldn't be here tonight. I think he's still sleeping. Hopefully he'll get on. Yeah, hopefully we'll try calling him for after show. And stay here, guys. We do have a station cash giveaway during their after hours, so stay tuned. We'll give that out. So to one lucky winner. So it's free station cash. How could you? Why would you want to leave? And guys, stick around. We have big stuff coming your way from EverCast. So you are our community, and we're nothing without you. So please stay on for the after hours.
Because we love you.
5-minute break. We'll be right back.
Camping in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.